Anybody who thinks that they're going to close over a steak dinner because you have a great relationship, you got another thing coming. Those days are over. The 90s called and they want their sales technique back. If you have the privilege to lead a commercial organization, if you're not occasionally visibly and vocally in front of your frontline sellers, you lose the handle. Not broken is not good enough in this environment. We need you in the C-suite, not trying to close today's number, but setting up an organization that's going to close next year's number. That's your job. It's not my aspiration that they would have world-class sales skills. It was my expectation.
Since that the hat has increased social conversion rates, Matt doesn't buy us, but now it's become a challenge for me to make sure that I can bring a hat. But for Maria's session, are you ready? Hold on, I got my hat.
You got a hat for me?
Here we go. I like it.
A special hat?
Mm-hmm.
Yes! I'm melting like butter in the hot sun.
How about that hat?
Like butter in the hot sun. I'm just melting.
This is the most appropriate hat for this conversation of all time.
I feel so loved.
And actually, yeah, you should. This is like a thoughtful hat presentation. Matt, what do you think? Is this?
I mean, it's as thoughtful as thoughtful can be. And I just came from SKO, so I also heart sales.
Yes, you do. But you're going with the sort of like Run DMC era New York look, right? You got the Yankees, Brooklyn Museum. What's up with that?
Yeah.
I like that.
Straight out of Brooklyn.
All right. Yeah, that's right. That's where he's coming. All right. So, by the way, if Sam, would you like to jump in and let the audience know that's not on video, that I'm wearing an I Love Sales hat? Go ahead.
Yes, for the listening audience, the hat Craig is wearing says, I heart sales.
Oh my God, dude, this is unreal.
Little music background might be good there.
Yeah.
Pipe it in.
Believe me, he'll probably add it in.
Pipe it in.
All right.
From ABM to PLG, from Medic to MedPick, the world of business is constantly evolving. We'll cover the who, what, where, when, why, and most importantly, how you get the transaction. I'm Matt Amundson, and he's Craig Rosenberg. Let's get started.
So here's the coolest part about today's show is that Matt and I live in the tech bubble. And so Maria, actually, I don't know if you looked into her back. We're surprising Matt with Maria. I don't think you guys have met. I got to meet Maria during my time at Gartner. And I have some funny little anecdotes on that. But the background selling at DuPont, like that's like talk about a Main Street organization, and bringing that perspective to the show is totally unique to us, right? Everything else, we like live in SaaS and NRR, ARR, and all this stuff. And so talking sales and revenue with Maria is a new perspective for us. You were there for a long time, and then did you 33 years?
Wow. I was 5 when I started, let's be clear.
Yeah, I was going to say, was Sam even born?
What a wonderkind.
No.
Man,
I was
that is so cool.
Yeah, it was wild. Just an engineer doing what engineers did for the first 10 years of that. You know.
Yeah, that's amazing too.
R&D, operations, all that stuff. And then I went into a tech service role. And now that Wicked is popular, I can say this without dating myself. It was like that scene in The Wizard of Oz when it goes from black and white to color. You know, I went from solving differential equations and fixated on unit operations and being really nerdy to why are some commercial professionals world class and can really do this well, and others are just going out there buying steak dinners trying to close. Like even 23 years ago, that was really noticeable. Except there
I love
were
that.
steak
See,
dinners. Yeah, it was nuts. Except now,
there was a lot of steak dinners.
Every now and then, 23 years ago, it worked. Spoiler alert: 23 years later, it doesn't work. I had a protracted argument, flat-out argument, in the middle of a pretty big presentation with a pretty big CPG manufacturer, with one of their channel partners who insisted the steak dinner still worked.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, we got out of that, and I told the CPG, like, you need to fucking fire him. By the way,
well, first of all, how dare he? Oh, see, now that's what I was going to say, by the way. Wait, before I do, hold on. I have a whole bunch of things I got to say. So one is the guy, just for the fact that he, rerouted your presentation, conversation, etc., to talk about steak dinners is fireable. The fact that he was taking that stance is fireable. But I have a fun fact. This is driving me crazy. So my associate, Mark, he does well-done steak. Like, I was making fun of people that do well-done steak with ketchup. And he's like, oh, well, I do well-done steak. And I was like, bro, you can't do well-done steak. So if you are going to have, I know, let's pray for him at this time. I don't know what's going on. But so by the way, on the double fisting of Cokes, Sam may want to, just see warning, Maria, like in the actual production, there'll be an interlude from Sam that says that Maria is currently holding up 2 Coke Zero cans for her double fisting. Yes, there you go.
Coke and a splash.
But so I met Maria at Gartner, and I remember when I started, everyone's like, oh, you got to meet Maria. And I don't know, it took us a minute, and then I met her. And the meetings at Gartner, they're very serious people, right? So like, there's not a ton of like crazy amounts of energy. It was like a meeting with Maria. That shit was like, I'm like, oh, okay, I feel so much more at home. My God. And it was like, dude, and it was like, yeah, it was just, things were just moving and shaking. It made me feel like I was at home again. And then just a real idea person. And like, as you 33 years, whatever, just the experience level is incredible, but delivered with enthusiasm in a way that's amazing. So we're very excited to have you on the show. We prolonged some of the Gartner folks just for a while, just for a lot of reasons, but now we get to have you today. So everyone, this is Maria Boulden. She, you've heard a little about her background, but I just want to say that she is a person that I love talking shop with, revenue, sales, etc. I'm really excited to introduce her to the audience and to Matt and Sam. It's funny, we don't always think about, the audience sort of gets the benefit of the fact that we just like having really amazing people on the show and getting to know them. And so this is great. So Maria, welcome to the transaction.
Thank you. I love the name, and I love that, you love the, starting everything with the. I love the transaction. My career is built around transactions. And as I think you probably heard me say a bunch of times at Gartner, which was the equivalent of me taking people by the shoulders and shaking them. A lot of really smart people with a lot of really provocative research and powerful research that is very relevant to today's commercial ecosystems. But what I kept finding myself asking over and over again while there is, this is really powerful, this is really provocative, this is really relevant. How do I execute against it? As a CRO, as a CCO, as a CSO, I get it. Like how do I execute it against it at that level? And then how does that leader make sure that it is executing through everyone in their remit right to the sharp tip of the spear? And that's where everything seemed to unravel. That's where that leadership linkage always seemed to break apart. And that was always my thing. If you are not the CRO or the CCO or the CSO that doesn't have the people who have the people who have the people to get to the front line, and you still get to the front line yourself, you have a problem. Because nobody's going to carry that flag. And you have to have every leader, including yourself, hands-on. I'm sorry, there's no autopilot. Has to be. Especially now.
Dan Gottlieb has a LinkedIn thing today. I know. He's amazing. But he has a LinkedIn thing today, which is like, it's essentially, hey, these are things that AI can't do to drive revenue. You just brought one up.
It's true.
I mean, without a doubt. And we have already a number of things queued up here, but before we do, we have to do the Matt Amundson feature enhancement 2.1 of the transaction, which is I'm excited for this one, which is, can you tell us a go-to-market story? Could be funny, could be heroic, could be heartwarming. It's okay, but like we've started to lead with the story. It's led to some great stories. As you heard, we had the maggots on the plane story, which shocked us. Yeah, that was shocking. Yeah, we had in a future episode Nick Toman talking about driving what's his name around in a small car. What Rackham, Neil Rackham. He had to go to Neil Rackham's cabin, and they were driving around some. Yeah, spin. I know. Wow. I read that 25, 30 years ago.
All did.
All right, so here we go. Tell us the story, Maria.
All right, go to market story. That's so hard. This is really hard to lay out to lay out. And I was trying to think of a funny one, but I got a very real one. One of the things that was amazing about Gartner is instead of just seeing things through your eyes as a leader, as a commercial professional, you see things through the eyes of hundreds of other sales leaders, which was fascinating to me. And it almost starts out like a joke. I'm sitting with the CRO, CCO, CSO of a commercial real estate company, an insurance company, a media company, and a CPG company. And I put them together. And I put them together because they were all complaining about the same things associated with their go-to-market strategy. And these were powerful companies that had strong data science organizations that were doing really great analytics on really important stuff and had built a pretty crackerjack go-to-market strategy in their own right for each one of their respective markets. And they were all tripping up on the same thing. And the same thing that they were all tripping up on was their ability to align their channel partners to see the same vision they did, to see what was in it for them, and to align with it. So they did this miraculous desktop exercise that by rights would win awards like crazy because it was so brilliant. And every single one of them was dying on the same hill with their channel partners and didn't want to call them out on it because they were worried about offending them, losing them, or whatever because they needed them too badly. And I kept saying, but they're not doing what you need them to do. And until I put them in the same room together so they could hear the madness in each other, did they recognize, oh shit, I really am not. And I learned that the hard way too. I mean, when I had the solar portfolio in DuPont, that business went from 100% share because we basically were part of creating the technology. Classic DuPont. Sure. Create the technology, create the category, short the market because you can't run the plants, and then usher in some other competitor because the market's not going to wait. So that was classic. Mm-hmm. Well, we did that in the solar portfolio. We went from practically 100% share to like 12 for the portfolio, and I had to come in and pick it back up. And what I found was that like so many manufacturers, and not just manufacturers of stuff, but providers of services, and clearly insurance, commercial real estate, media, and CPG, they had basically abdicated all power and access to the people who extract the value of their brand to some partner. And at some point, I'm sure this partner was formidable and capable, but in the current market environment, that had somehow atrophied and they weren't doing it anymore. So what I had done in the solar portfolio is I said, look, this is great, but clearly this is not working. We're at 12% share, something's broken. So back in 2011, when nobody knew what a go-to-market strategy was, we decided to architect a team that marketed downstream, didn't just go to the people who made panels, didn't just go to the people who made the parts for panels. We went to the people who installed the panels, who were generating the power, who financed the power arrays. We went completely downstream and we leapt over our transactional partners and their transactional partners. And I remember being in Germany with the biggest solar panel manufacturer in the world, who was from China, as were the next 5 in the world. And I remember our transactional partner, who was a converter, sitting in a meeting with me. Great meeting, great progress, breakthrough progress to get all the parties in line in the value chain to say, yeah, this is how we're going to do things, this is how we're going to partner. And it was just breakthrough. Nobody had ever had these conversations before. And we're all feeling pretty good with ourselves. And this converter asks to talk to me in private. And he gets me aside in a room. And no shit, He gets me in this room, and I'm probably 2 months into the job. And I architected it, so I felt pretty good about it. This was a really good meeting with the biggest player in town. No lie, the guy gets this close to my face. Right up in my face. And he's like a foot taller than me, which isn't hard. But he basically the dude's looking down on me, and he's wagging his finger at me. So he's wagging his finger at me. He says, I have supported this customer for 13 years. I take care of this customer. You need to take care of your customer. And that's me.
Whoa.
Right?
What?
Dude is in my face. And I mean, it's hilarious. It was absolutely, because I mean, in the broad scheme of things, DuPont at the time, $80 billion company. And I've got this company's not even $1 billion. He's this like fleck on the radar screen.
Yeah.
And I was surprisingly cordial because being from Philly, by the way, go Birds, being from Philly, I was about to go native on him. There was a part of me that's like, I'm going to drop you like a bag of dirt, dude. But there was a pragmatic side of me. That said, with respect, do you really believe that a company with the scope and depth and breadth of our technology and our span is really going to continue to abdicate all power and access to the most powerful influencers in this ecosystem to you? And he says, well, I've been in this industry longer than you've been here, and I'm not going to take, this is even better, I'm not going to take instructions from some girl.
No!
Oh, shit!
Oh.
No shit! We went there!
Philly girl, nonetheless. Oh, shit.
Which, at that point, I'm not going to repeat the rest of the conversation. But
I imagine, yeah. Although this is for mature audiences.
It is. And
true.
You know what? He went into business for himself after that. And
I imagine.
I wished him Godspeed.
Jesus Christ.
But the long and short of it is, in that particular case, the outcome in his own personal view of taking instruction from some girl was the same as what we had to do as a company with this channel partner, and that was put them aside. Because if they're going to be in the way, we have to execute. This is about practical execution. It's not about history. It's not about feelings. It's not personal. It's about how you execute so that everybody's successful. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. So that's what we did. And it was interesting because, same thing happened with this insurance and media and CPG, manufacturing, commercial real estate. They were being held hostage by partners who were living in the past. The old go-to-market strategy was being what made them successful for so long. And maybe that's not true in SaaS. Maybe that's not new in tech, for a newer company that's used to today's world order. But for so many of these companies that I saw at Gartner, and to this day can't even figure out their CRM, much less, they're still out there. They are. You would be shocked how many are still out there. And, we would do the work with them. They would come up with a great go-to-market strategy. And yes, it takes guts to actually execute. It's hard to do the work, but the hardest work is to actually execute it. You would be surprised how many get into the red zone and they just can't push it through because they're afraid or they're nervous or the CYA kicks in. Or frankly, and this was the hardest part of the job, a lot of times these strategies require you to wipe the slate because the people you have at the sharp tip of the spear can't do the work. And they're wonderful humans, and you find them the softest landing possible, but they got to go or you're not going to go. And it's hard.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people get cold feet. The best thing you can do for them is the best thing you can do for your organization. And that's find them a soft landing and everybody moves on. Because it's painful for everybody otherwise. And that was hard. It's hard to recognize that. It's like, and last story, I swear it's the last story. No, it's not the last story.
No, these are great.
But this is germane, even though it sounds very unrelated. I was 7 months pregnant with my now 28-year-old. Lots of kids in our family, but this particular one, 7 months pregnant. And I was working with DuPont on our corporate lobby for clean air. and with different state air resources boards, but we were also trying to execute at the federal level, both for climate change and for ambient ozone. And I was really feeling good about myself. I'm taking the train down from Wilmington Station, Joe Biden State, whatever, station to Capitol Hill. And I'm in this hot red A-line dress, feeling like I am the stuff. I'm going in to do some cool work. I'm meeting in Jesse Helms. Like, there's some cool stuff going on. That little kid like me from Philly is going in representing DuPont with some pretty high-level people that I was grateful to even ride their coattails on. So I'm getting on the train in Philly. We pull in to Union Station, and I pick up my briefcase in my fancy red dress, and I get up, and I'm walking through Union Station, and I'm getting a lot of attention. Now, I feel like I look pretty darn good, but there's a surprising number of men saying, "Hey, baby." Like, and I'm like, "Yeah, I look good, I know." So I am attracting a lot of attention, and I'm pretty darn proud of myself because it's the first time I wear this dress, and I'm like, yeah, pregnant women can look good. And I get out to that outdoor part where the taxi line is queued up and you're waiting in line on that little thing under the overhang. And the sweetest old woman comes up beside me, grabs my dress, and says, "Honey, you need to pull down your skirt."
Oh shit!
So
I can,
I walked from the train through the platform, through Union Station, out to the taxi line. My dress is up to here. I'm showing my pregnant butt and half my pregnant belly to all of Washington, D.C.
Oh, Lord.
And I think sometimes that is a metaphor for some of these sales leaders who just can't recognize that their ass is exposed.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ. Oh man.
I still take that one with me when I'm feeling too full of myself.
Yeah, okay. That was a top 3 story that we've had on the transaction.
I'm so honored.
Yeah, I don't know that there's 2 that are lower than that, but
I mean, you're right.
I was gonna. Coke Zero's not gonna get it out of me.
All right.
Well, we could do a live show with that. Okay, wait. All right. So that was amazing. Yeah, that's okay. You should see my desk over here. I don't want to make any more noises so Sam doesn't have to cut any of my little noises out. All right. So hey, before we go to the big question though, can we dig in on the steak dinner?
Yeah. So
the steak dinner is dead, according to Maria from Phil. Whoa. What? Coming in hot. Matt, where's your Coke Zero?
Dude, I need one bad.
Yeah, you need like 5.
I could make mine.
How many of you had today, Matt?
No, I've just had coffee. I just had the horrible United coffee, and then I made one for myself when I got home to try to get tuned up for this.
I was going to do a Diet Mountain Dew, but I was twitching in front of my husband. He's like, "Are you really going to do that in front of when you're doing a recording?"
We'll take it. But all right, so steak dinner. Sam, we are about to do a cut from Maria from Philly on the current state of the steak dinner. Right. Go.
Yeah, me? Sam, turn the TikTok camera on. Here we go.
I'll hit the button.
All right.
So is it dead? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Now, I'm not saying that you can't take a client out and have a wonderful dinner after you have done everything you need to do to close that deal the right way, with the right commercial insight and the right empathy and the right process to help that client understand something about their business that they don't already know and really should, because they can be better, and you're an enabler to them being better in a way that you might not get the sale the first time, but you came around this, whatever. You're the right partner for them. Mm-hmm. And you do the work to establish that they're the right partner. You want to have a steak dinner after that, you have at it. But anybody who thinks that they're going to close over a steak dinner because you have a great relationship and you're going to blow, a few thousand on some nice wine and some great steaks, you got another thing coming. Those days are over. And it is shocking and disappointing to me that there's people who still believe you can do that.
Matt, what are your thoughts on the steak dinner? Has anybody have anybody tried to sell you shit, taking you to steak dinner recently?
I mean, the fact of the matter is, just take me out for a burrito. You're more likely to get a deal that way.
Know your customer.
I'll take
know
a
your
customer.
That's
I mean, here's what I will say in my experience in the sort of the B2B space is like, depending upon the price point, depending upon the product, depending upon like how competitive a sales cycle is, what I have found is by and large, most people I'll just say it. Most people can be bought. And that's the way I feel about it. Like, I don't think you can go sell. Here's the thing, like the barrier to entry is pretty low. I don't think you can go sell a $500,000 enterprise deal or a 7-figure enterprise deal. Absolutely not. Do I think you could sell a $30,000 piece of SaaS? Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I will say in the SaaS space is that by and large, people have become so comfortable selling from behind their desk over Zoom that anytime that you can create a personal interaction between the buyer and the seller, you're probably going to have a gigantic leg up on a competitor if you are indeed running a competitive sales cycle. Now, if you're like selling a novel product where you're like, hey, it's me versus the status quo, where like there is a solid option to basically do nothing, I don't necessarily know that you can convince a buyer to get off of the, hey, what we're doing now is fine, to, hey, for $35,000, I'll move into your product. But most of the time, like, it's not that hard to outsell another salesperson, because what we see as high quality selling in SaaS has gotten so poor.
People actually want to go out on their own private time and have dinner with some
they do.
seller?
Yeah. They definitely do. I've been
selling in the wrong places then, because in the manufacturing world, it's like, you want to go to a ball game?
Yeah, but you're selling huge deals. Yeah. Huge. It's a different motion, right? Because I think people, I think that there is a generation of buyers who are like, hey, like, I want to be wined and dined a little bit. I want to be, treated well. And sellers have sellers have really gotten away from that, right? They're just kind of like, hey, my BDR put this on my calendar, or this person requested a demo. I'm going to do this whole thing over Zoom. I'm going to send a follow-up email with the notes from our conversation. I'm going to set the stage for the next steps. We're going to move towards a close. We're going to bring in the buying committee. I'm going to, identify my champion, identify, my support group here, and I'm going to run a cycle, largely virtually. Yeah. And for those people who are willing to get out and shake a hand, whether you're taking someone to a steak dinner, to a burrito, to a frozen yogurt, out for drinks or whatever, just the mere fact that they get to see you as a human being, I think goes a long way towards getting a deal done nowadays.
And this is really interesting, because I think this is where generations start to come together or show their separation. Yeah. Sure. The same 28-year-old that I was describing when I was 7 months pregnant with him is now a sales manager. And he leads a team of people who are all virtual. They all work. They don't physically meet with their customers. It's all done virtually and by phone. So he does often speak about that difficulty to engage. There aren't many opportunities, and even when there are, people aren't necessarily interested. Whereas my generation, people like me who are like 2 days older than dirt, who grew up in a company that really believed that a good engineer could do anything, and if you could find any that had some degree of charm and communication skills, you handed them a set of keys and a piece of paper with your customer list, because literally, you didn't get smartphones back then, and we were the ones that went into sales. And no lie.
Sure.
Here's another story. When I was thinking about going to sales as a tech service person, I don't know how many people I had who pulled me aside and said, it's not for you. You have a hard enough time with eye contact. and holding
Right.
a conversation without going technical. Sales isn't for you. And besides, you're a woman, and that means you can't come to Cabo with us when the distributors want to take their not wives with them.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Right.
sure.
I'm like, what the fuck? Which made me, of course, like, all right, guaranteed, if you tell me I can't do something, that's like, okay, done, I'm doing it, so let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe that's where this separation has come, having come through very manufacturing, product focused, complex, long sales cycle stuff. I have seen a lot of sellers who have not recognized, if you think about what people are doing wrong, and leaders thinking, well, my sellers are selling badly. They're not selling badly. It's just that the 90s called and they want their sales technique back. They're not selling in a way that's consistent with what a 2025 commercial environment requires. Or, it's not even the 90s in this environment. 2019 called and wants their sales model back. There's a lot of people stuck in the teens.
Yeah.
And they can't figure out why what they're doing is wrong. And a lot of leaders I see are like, well, just put more people out there, add more salespeople, get them back out there. And it's not about putting a body on a buyer all the time.
Yeah.
And when is the right time, and what do you have them say, and what's the data you have them walk in with? Because the other thing I notice a lot of is these elegant go-to-market strategies with amazing marketing communications and great content and great thought leadership and great air cover for any person with the privilege to go out and close in this environment. But they're going out with a message, and Craig, we heard about this 9 Ways to Sunday in Gartner. They're going out with a message that is either in conflict with what the customer's learning online or just plain new to what the customer's learning online. And instead of getting I'm interested, let's talk about it, you get an, oh, wait, I'm confused. And that's where all deals go to die or stall.
Yeah.
But probably die.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I would I have two things. One is a comment on Matt, and then the other is a funny story that complements what Maria says. But like, so one is, I don't know, Matt, that we don't fall for the AE saying, oh, I'm going to be in town, do you want to get coffee, or like, hey, here's the thing on Maria, in the world that we're in on SaaS, is like there's 25 competitors and then everything SaaS. And then the only way, frankly, for us to get above the din is to build personal relationships. In some cases, that'll be something outside. But then the second part is you still have the tenets of like what we're all talking about, which is you do have to be valuable. You can't just say, hey, I'll get you a burrito at Pancho Villa. Like, you do have to have some level of credibility that Matt would know that, like, hey, I'm not just going to sit there, eat the burrito, and the person's going to sell me stuff.
Sure.
Like, it's still, you would have a valuable conversation. And it's not one play, but it's one of the things. But like everything that in that SaaS world where everything's virtual and everything's so muddled, anything we could do to put a human connection to the deal is likely going to benefit the seller. That's kind of the thing there. I did want to mention what Maria was saying, which is like, well, you've done everything right. Then go out to dinner. So like my buddy Ted Purcell, I used to always ask him and he's Matt's buddy too, and we'd be like, tell us Bill McDermott stories, and he's like, he had a bunch of really funny ones, but one of them is like, look, McDermott believed in the signing party. If you got a big deal, then he would fly in and for a signing party, and he'd say, and it has to be the best restaurant in town. And Ted's like, so I get my first big deal. McDermott's like, great, where are we having the signing party? He's like, I look it up. It's like, there's top 10s, all this stuff. I go book the meal. He's like, well, where's the signing party? He's like, here. He's like, nope, not good enough. He's like, okay, all right, I'll do the next one. He's like, gets the next one. McDermott's like, no, not good enough. And so Ted's like, Jesus. So he goes out. He's like, dude, I need the most expensive, exclusive dinner place in town. He finally figures it out, delivers it. And McDermott's like, good enough. I'll see you in 2 days. And they come in, have this dinner they called it the signing party. And that's what you said, Marie, which is like everything's now buttoned up. We've delivered value. We've run the sales process. We're about to kick off, and let's go celebrate together as new partners.
That's okay.
That's a really good use case. Yeah.
And this happened. So I was at one of those signing parties, and I was totally cool with it because we did the right work. And we were all really proud of it. And it was the manufacturer, the channel partner, and my DuPont team. And I won't mention the ecosystem because people will start knowing names that were in it. But we were in Japan celebrating a big signing. And the channel partner selected, ready? A fucking gentleman's
Hold on,
club
let me guess.
to celebrate.
Oh, I was Jesus. I didn't think you were. I thought you were going to say TGI Fridays. Okay, all right.
I've been happier than having some poor woman sitting across from me while the guys in the party were out having their party and celebrating. And this poor, 20-something is looking at me like, well, what am I supposed to do there? So I gave her a nice tip. Gave her a nice tip and left, but it's like, seriously? Well, and then that's another opportunity where people lost their jobs. Why do I keep talking about these things?
Yeah, by the way, I'm pretty sure you could tell your family that you're going to kill it on TikTok with this show you just did, because these are definitely hot TikTok clips, bro. All right. Hey, by the way, we have 16 minutes to ask you the big question. Ready?
Ready.
So what's something that the market thinks they're doing right? Could be methodology, approach, tactics, and they're actually wrong. And what is that, and what should they be doing differently?
Okay, there's a few of them. One of them I said before. If you have the privilege to lead a commercial organization as a CRO, as a CCO, as a CSO, all of the above. I like the CRO and CCO model, but whatever you are, if you're not occasionally, not all the time, but if you're not occasionally visibly and vocally in front of your frontline sellers, you lose the handle. Now, don't go and sell for them, but if you are not an entity in front of them in a way that they respect you as able to be shoulder to shoulder with them, I see a lot of them who are out there trying to do their old job. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that your people have to know that if they call on you to walk the walk, you're not a liability. You can actually do it.
Right.
And there's a lot of CROs that don't have that respect of their team. And the team can't fully understand and appreciate what that CRO is asking them to do. Because their chain of leadership has been whispered down the lane. And when the CRO said zig, somehow at the front line it ended up as zag. Yeah. So even if you trust the leaders in your organization, you still have to occasionally get face to face with those people on your team looking to you for leadership, saying, do you understand the words coming out of my mouth? Like the rush hour, the famous rush hour quote. Do you understand the words coming out of my mouth? And then there's a couple more to that. Not broken is not good enough in this environment. There's too many out there holding on to what worked and hunkering down, just waiting for whatever the hell this is to clear, to pass over us, to be done. And you know what? When it is, there's going to be something else behind it that's probably worse. Hunkering down doesn't work. It's not good enough. You've got to figure out what the now is. Because whatever's coming in after this, if you haven't already done the homework for now, you're screwed. And we see that all the time. And a lot of times, people are pulling me in, and it's already too late. It was too late a year ago. Yeah. And then you got to start over.
Yeah, love that.
And a lot of people start over, miss that there are some things probably working. And this is probably the last thing. Like, to make sure it's not just a desktop exercise, when you figure out what you need to go do, part of that has to be a cognition of what is still going right. Yeah, there have been times in my career I had to wipe the slate. That's hard. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I could be cavalier saying I had to wipe the slate. I had to let all these people go. It doesn't matter. That person's name on a spreadsheet is still a human with a family that you got to go talk to. This is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to recalibrate a go-to-market strategy and recognize there will be people who don't make the evolution and talk them through it. But you also have to recognize that most of the time, there are some things that are going right in your current strategy. So as you evolve, you got to know what these are, and you got to keep them for a couple of reasons. Number one, you can't afford to lose them because they're going right and you need to. And number two, people are watching you as a leader and judging you as a leader if you're not smart enough to see that that's still going right. And if they think it's right, but you know it's wrong, you got to go through the change management steps to say, this is wrong, this is how I know, and this is what you're going to see when we change to doing it this way. And a lot of people miss that important change management piece. So they all did this elegant, excellent, data-driven go-to-market strategy that they've launched, and 3/4 of their organization is out executing against. But the one that actually closes against it isn't. And we call that a desktop exercise.
Boom.
So a lot of people are getting that wrong. And it's hard. But they're missing that last mile.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to mention on number one about the leader of revenue, CCO, CRO, getting out there and being able to prove that he or she can go shoulder to shoulder. Just a quick note to the audience. We're not talking to someone who's dealing with startups here. We're talking about a recommendation from people leading massive organizations. So that's important because, we'll get I have a big organization, I can't do it. And that's definitely not true. And by the way, I would say, for you to be able to understand truly what's working, and I think your number 3 combines with number 1, which is the truth is out there on the street when you're out there, with the folks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you had to give an example of yourself or someone that you've worked with over the years leading a big organization, what did they do to go out there and get to the front line? Was it once a quarter and they would go out there and do sales calls, or what did that look like?
So there's 2 ends of the spectrum. The wrong end, there's one end of the spectrum that just goes out and does sales calls all the time. It's no. Your sellers don't need...
Not that, yeah.
We don't need you there. We need you in the C-suite, not trying to close today's number, but setting up an organization that's going to close next year's number. That's your job.
Right.
Every now and then, for the right customer, for the right deal, for the right circumstances, a salesperson needs to pull you in, and you got to show that you can execute. And that's somebody that can go in understanding the sales process. What are the buying signals? What do we know about their buyer journey? What is the technique that you have used to even get us to the table to have these conversations? And the reason I feel so strongly with that is I made that mistake enough times as a middle manager where I'm bringing in the CEO or I'm bringing in the CRO, and you're always going to get an end around even at the signing table. And here's what I need you to do when that end around comes. And I remember classic, again, sitting in Asia, this time I think it was in Beijing, we're sitting at the signing table and I told the guy, they're going to do the end around. Here's what you say. Here's what you do. And this guy, I did not prepare properly. So I should have known that he wouldn't have been prepared. As a commercial leader, you should be prepared anyway. But you also have to ask for preparation if you're not ready. So we're at the signing table. I thought I had them all prepared. They do the end around. They want a lower price. And this guy looks at the customer, or this is the CEO of the customer talking to my boss at the time and saying, well, I guess what we need to do here, and he looks at me, and we're all working through a translator. He looks at me and he goes, is have Maria go sharpen her pencil. And fortunately, the translator we were using knew what not to translate. And I remember looking at him.
No way.
Yeah. Well, he knew what not to say of our conversation.
Yeah.
He would know when it was time to translate and when it was just a conversation between us. And when the guy said, we need to have Maria go sharpen her pencil, I looked at him and I said, oh, why is that? So I can stick it in your fucking eye? We had this conversation! So anyway, we didn't end up signing. We did eventually get that deal back. But, as a commercial organization, the executive has to realize they need preparation. Don't just go barreling in there thinking, I know everything. And the seller has to recognize no matter how much that executive thinks they're ready to go, they're not. And then I think the executives that thrive the most, and I'm not saying I did everything right, but they find the right forums in which they engage their sales teams. It could be a town meeting. It could be a certain event scheduled at the SKO. I actually found, in my case, I was certified to train people on advanced negotiation and arbitration. I was a Challenger certified resource, and I had other, channel certifications and things like that to train people. And one of the things I would do when I got a new commercial organization, and I always got the broken ones. That was like my thing at DuPont. Give Maria the broken one, have her fix it, bolt it onto her, remit, fine. And one of the things I would do as soon as I got that organization is I would schedule some sort of negotiation training, Challenger training, whatever. Because number one, I could get to them and see who the good ones were and see where the not good ones were. And the other thing was I could help them see point blank. I knew how to do what they needed help doing. And number two, it was not my aspiration that they would have world-class sales skills. It was my expectation. That's why I took the time to get good enough to be a trainer. And that's why I was having these conversations with them so we could scrimmage and figure out at the execution level what they needed to go do. And if they needed to call me and say, hey, Maria, I know you've got, $6 billion of revenue to close here for the company, but I need to talk to you about this, $500,000 deal. Okay, let's go all day. I love it.
That's awesome. Well, okay, and then remind me on number 2. What was number 2?
If it's not broken, is it good enough?
Yeah. Okay, hunkering down. That did resonate. It sort of melded into my brain. But just tell me, you mean that someone says once this economic environment sorts itself out or this new then I'll just go back to my old ways and we're just waiting to go. Is that what you mean?
Exactly. So take your pick.
Well,
it could be the digital, the consumerization of B2B sales. It could be everything from the tariff situation to, interest rate. It could be anything. Let's just hunker down. Yeah. We're not going to talk to customers about anything different. We're going to do what we've always done. We're going to deploy our sales team the same way because when this is over, it's all going to go back to normal. No such thing.
Right.
There is never normal.
No.
Whatever it is, tomorrow will be different.
But this is a strategy that people are employing all over the place. I know, Craig, you're like, hey, you can't do that. But Jesus, it's every time I open the Stocks app, I'm seeing another company that's doing it. 1,000 people got let go this morning. I'm hearing 2,000 people at another large SaaS company getting let go next week. This is what people are doing. Right? They're like, let me just jack up the stock price. I don't want to learn to sell in a different way, or I don't want to release a new product that's purpose-built for the now. Let me just cut back a little bit, and then I'll jack my stock price up. Like, that is what people are doing all over the board.
Absolutely. Let's cost. How many times do you see a company cost reduce their way to what they think is going to hit their number? It's like, really?
Yeah.
That works.
Mm-hmm.
My God, I sound so bitter.
Yeah.
What happened?
No, you're not bitter. You're not bitter. Your stories do end up with you either kicking someone's ass or trying to poke them in the eye with a pencil, but that's not bitter. That's just
you're the John Wick of selling.
I do it, and I have. I led the Kevlar team for a long time. I have a suit.
Are you kidding? You should have worn that today. Yes.
Oh my
Lord.
I could wear some body armor. That was there was a nobility. You know what? I was always very privileged in DuPont. There was a nobility to selling some things that we did, and I was really proud of them.
Oh, sure,
That
of
was a
course.
cool
Yeah,
product.
absolutely.
That was a great product.
Yeah, hell yeah.
The Kevlar, yeah. I mean, I if you had worn the Kevlar today, that when drank your mainlining Diet Coke or Coke Zero and telling stories about poking people in the eye, that might have. But you did it. So yes, Matt, I see your point. I would say, by the way, I don't know if you saw, but Salesforce has like flooded the zone with hiring systems engineers. Have you seen this? It's like, that's an adjustment, by the way, because remember, Mark's strategy before was hire more sales reps, and now they're realizing in the world of AI, to sell AI, we need more folks that can work on the use case. That's an example of someone making a strategic adjustment to the now. I know there was also people let go, but on the but that's to the point of like,
that's what you do. I mean,
yes, that is the now.
When I had to retune the construction business that I had in DuPont, we didn't go out and hire. We had to sell to a whole new part of the market, and that was one of those circumstances where, you know, I had a lot of people who sold on charm and communication skills. I needed architects and designers to sell to architects and designers. So, you know, I kept the same head count, but it was a whole different set of people because we were going downstream.
Yes.
We weren't doing a donut run.
Right. I'm sorry. What's a donut run?
It's exactly what it sounds like. I'm going to meet with my distributor and bring a box of Joe and a box of donuts. And we're going to shoot the shit for an hour. I'm not kidding.
The donut run. Oh, I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, that is exactly what I thought it was. You are correct. I just wanted to make sure I didn't run off, because there are some terms from this podcast episode today that I will be using. One of which is donut run.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is
going into the vernacular.
Right? And here's another one. And I found this a lot at Gartner. You know, people are asking me for guidance on what I do with my go-to-market strategy, or, you know, how do I work with my sales team? And I call them ask holes. It's like you're asking me the same question every time, and you never do anything with what I'm suggesting. If you're going to ask my guidance, at least execute against it, damn it. If you think it's dumb, then let's have a conversation about why you're not doing it. It's like we talk about this. It's like Groundhog Day. You ask my advice.
Oh, my God.
Tell me it's bad, or go fucking do it. Sorry.
Oh my God.
The asshole. Oh Lord. We got to bring that. That's in the lexicon now. Holy shit.
But how many people do you talk to where that is very relevant?
Oh, of course. The asshole is a real world thing.
And as a leader, you can't be that either. Like, how many people, you know, you'll be in the C-suite and it's like, well, I'm going to have a town meeting. I'm going to hear what my people are saying. You're going to get some input. And you're going to have to execute against it. And if you're not going to, you got to give them, you earn their trust and their respect by saying, this is what I heard. This is what we're doing about it. And some people are concerned about X. This is why I can't execute against that right now. You got to hit that head on.
Yeah.
Because people will not respect you if they think that, in fact, they'll lose respect for you if they think they were heard and then they think they were ignored. And that's just human nature. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But for some reason, a lot of people, get to that level of executive leadership, that privilege, and they forget the basics of change management and leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you are making these massive, whether it's a go-to-market change or a strategy change of any kind, hey, we're going to do a pre-mortem. This is how we're taking a lot of risk here. I know you're used to hunkering down, but we're about to execute a massive change. And it's a big shift for us. And here's the parts of the horizon that we're going to watch to know that we're doing things right, and how we'll know if we're doing things wrong or the market's not buying it. And that's how we're going to guide ourselves. And this is what I want you to watch with me, so that when it happens, we're all ready to pivot, or we're all ready to run faster. And so many people miss that, and they end up with a team that's either too scared to execute, or they don't believe you and they won't execute.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, if you do a pre-mortem and you call it you take a picture of the meeting invite and it says pre-mortem, I'll give you $50 cash.
I love doing pre-mortems.
What do you think?
They're even better with alcohol. But I don't drink really, but these are great. I mean, seriously, they are I tell you, if somebody does a pre-mortem with their team, it is cathartic because people get all that stuff out.
Please, I love this. I know this is. Think about the last couple things you just brought up, but you put product names on them, pre-mortem being one of them, ASCL. These are all things we can relate to, but we didn't have a good product name for them, and now we do. So I like that. By the way, pre-mortem is epic. ASCL, probably number one. Yeah, I mean that was an all-timer.
I've had BDRs, SDRs, inside sales appointment setters in my remit for the last 15 years. So yeah, I know a lot of ASCLs.
That is the truth. That is the truth. All right, cool. So we did it. By the way, Maria, this was a lot of fun. So I didn't anticipate anything otherwise, but we got to do this again. And
what a privilege!
Yeah, it was great.
I've been following you, and I hear Jesus, Kyle Porter, Sales Loft, and Brent, and all these other people, and I'm like, one of these things is not like the other. I mean, these are big time people, and I'm honored. I am absolutely honored, and you guys are awesome. So.
Well, first of all, you are. Yeah. Well, thank you. You are a big time person.
Absolutely.
And your stories may outdo all of them, although both of those had really good stories. This was.
I did not have any.
Yeah,
maggots,
this was.
And I didn't try and mimic Benny Off or anything like that.
No, you're good. Yeah, that's good. All right, well, thank you so much. That's what we try to do on the transactions, just have some fun learning together. So, and I'm glad Matt and Sam got to meet you because you are an amazing person. So this was a win-win-win-win.
Thank you.
Yes, we got to hang out more often.
I love it.
This is why I woke up at 1 a.m. Pacific time to fly back from Miami to be here for this podcast.
I'm so honored. You guys ever find yourself in the Mid-Atlantic, Rehoboth Beach, right here? I got a beach chair and a cold drink with your name on it.
In Delaware? Is that where you are?
Yeah, it's kind of cold now, but a warm drink.
Yeah, maybe not now. But yeah, and hopefully if Philly wins, we'll try to find a way to celebrate with you.
Let's go.
Yeah, we are all. I think I speak for many of the people who are listeners and people who are actually on this show. We are all behind the Eagles this weekend.
Unless you're a Chiefs fan, the whole world is going Birds, man. I mean, it's crazy.
If you're from Kansas City, you want the three-peat. Everybody else, let's go hunt.
Yeah,
exactly, man.
If they win, I will take my kids' mattresses and throw them into the street and light them on fire.
Yes!
Oh, please don't do that. Oh, Jesus.
Now we're talking Philly, yo.
That was very Philly. All right, great. All right, guys. Thanks for everything. Maria, great to see you.
All
right. Thank you, guys.
Let's roll.
Bye.
Later.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of The Transaction. Craig and I really appreciate the fact that you've listened all the way to the end. What are you actually doing here? For show notes and other episodes, please visit us at thetransactionpod.com. Like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other place you get your podcast from. Either you have walked away from your podcast device, or this is playing somewhere in the background. Someone in your house would really like for you to shut this off now.